I remember that smell. It was on everything. The earth, the ropes that bound us, the hands that touched us. Damp, ancient dust, as if time itself was rotting beneath our feet. Back then, I didn't have the words to describe it all, but the smell, it stayed. It still comes to me in dreams. They gave me the name Celia. No one remembers my real name. It was taken, like so much else, with a single glance, a curt command. I was born in the South on foreign soil, where the sun didn't warm but burned, and the night came without protection. My mother died when I was a little over 5 years old. They told me she had been taken away, but I felt she had simply vanished. She didn't say goodbye. She only left her song, the one she used to sing to me in the evenings. I whispered it to myself when the work became too hard, when my hands trembled from exhaustion, and my body no longer felt pain. Only fog. We lived in a long wooden building. Women on one side, men on the other. Every day began with a scream. Not the cry of birds, but the cry of a white man, rough, cold. He didn't call, he commanded. We went out to the fields before the sun had risen, and returned only after it had long disappeared. Food, corn mush, rarely meat, and bread so hard it could break a stone. We ate without speaking. Our voices were lost between the days. But even in this hell, there were sparks. We laughed. Yes, sometimes. One day a little boy, he was about 8 years old, slipped a dead mouse into the overseer's boot. The man screamed like a child, and the boy only bit his lip so as not to give himself away. We all stayed silent, but our eyes were alive. It was our little triumph, though a dangerous one. And then there was that, a scene that stayed in me like a nail driven into the chest. I was already grown, then about 20 years old, working in the house. They called me a house girl, as if that made life easier. But slavery, it's the same everywhere. The white mistress was young, beautiful, and cruel. She had a son, a boy of about 6 years. He liked to play with me, clung to me, asked how trees grow, why the rain falls. I told him my mother's stories, about how the stars talk at night. He laughed. One day he cried when I refused to give him candy. I was afraid he might choke. The next day, they took me to the barn. No one said why. They just tied me up and beat me. For a long time, without words, only breath on my back and the hiss of the whip. I didn't scream. I just stared at the ceiling and whispered my mother's song. After that, the boy never spoke to me again, and the mistress looked at me as if I were a piece of filth. I understood then, even a child is not protection. Or maybe he had become a slave too, a slave of those who raised him. Sometimes I dreamed of becoming a bird. Not a butterfly, they're too fragile. A bird, big, strong. I would rise above the fields where backs bend, and I would scream so that everyone could hear, so that the sky would tremble. But instead, I stayed silent. We all stayed silent. And only at night, when everything was still, I spoke to God. In whispers. I didn't pray, I argued. Why? For what? Why must I remember the scent of fear from childhood? Why do my hands no longer know touches, except for those of commands? One day, I saw a white man crying. He just sat on the porch and cried. I don't know who he was. Maybe the master's son. They said his wife had died. I looked at him and felt we had more in common than he thought. He was a prisoner too. Only our cages were different. I don't know how my story will end. I am old. Too old, but I still sing my mother's song, quietly, under my breath. Maybe someone will hear it and pass it on. Not my name, not my pain, but the essence, that a human being is not what's written on paper, not the color of skin. A human is a voice in the dark, still hoping that someone will hear it. I remember a woman. Her name was Lily. Her skin was the color of dark honey. Her hair braided so tightly it seemed the memory of an entire lineage was woven into it. She could laugh in such a way that even the old ones forgot where they were. Lily was older than me, and, they said, knew many things. They called her a witch, in whispers with respect and fear. She healed with herbs, stroked the bellies of pregnant women, and sang strange, trembling songs. There were no words in them, only a sound like wind moving through reeds. When someone was dying, Lily would sit beside them. She didn't pray, didn't cry. She simply held their hand until the breath faded. She would say, "You'll pass to another place, where no one will yell at you in the morning, and your feet will be bare, but not in the mud." I always listened and couldn't understand. Was she making it up, or did she truly know? One day I asked her, "Do you really believe there is another place?" She looked at me like a mother, as if I were still a child, and she said, "I remember it." Lily disappeared. One day she simply didn't come. Some said she was taken away, others that she ran. But I knew. They took her because she knew too much. They didn't like smart women here, especially those who weren't afraid to look you in the eyes. After she was gone, the plantation grew colder, even in the heat, as if all the life had left with her breath. When you are reminded every day that you are nothing, you begin to speak to your shadow. Yes, your own. It walks behind you, says nothing, and only it knows everything you've been through. I often sat in the corner of the cabin and looked at my shadow stretched across the floor. I talked to it about fears, about the children I never had. I couldn't bear children. There was too much pain inside. Or maybe God decided I shouldn't be given continuation. Sometimes I thanked him for that, because watching your child being taken away, that's worse than death. There was one boy who was kind to me. His name was Tommy. He worked in the stables, always smelled of hay and smoke. Young, playful. He secretly brought me apples. And once, when I was sick, he pulled a piece of boiled bean from under his shirt. He didn't eat it himself. He gave it to me. I looked at him and thought, here he is, a human being. Not white, not black, just a human. A heart that keeps beating even when they try to crush you. We weren't lovers. We didn't have the time or the space for that. But one day he touched my hand, not by accident, not roughly. He simply laid his palm over mine. I didn't pull it away. And in that moment, I felt alive. Not a slave, not a servant, not a shadow, but a woman. Just for a moment. But it was enough to hold on to for a lifetime. Then Tommy disappeared. They accused him of something he didn't do. He was too stubborn, too free inside. They don't like that. He was taken away, and no one knew where. I didn't even get to say goodbye. I just stood by the wall and whispered, "May your road be easier than mine." And again, emptiness. Alone again. Always alone. But not quite. He stayed in me, in his gaze, in his warm palm, in his apples. Life went on. I grew older. My fingers twisted from hard work. My back ached in the mornings, as if someone had lain on it during the night. I scrubbed floors, massaged the backs of white women, sang lullabies to their children. And none of them knew that in my songs were spells of freedom. I never sang just to sing. Every note carried a prayer, every word, a hope. Maybe they didn't understand it, but inside me still lived that little girl my mother once called by another name. I couldn't remember the name, but the feeling, yes. Warmth, love, home. One day, a white girl came up to me. Small, about 7 years old. She looked at me for a long time, then said, "You smell like sunshine." I didn't know what to say. I just smiled. And for the first time in many years, my heart ached not from pain, but from something soft. I understood. She wasn't ruined yet. There was still a chance for something different in her. I placed my hand on her shoulder and said, "Never be afraid to look up at the sky. Sometimes it feels like I've become a tree, old, dry, but still standing." Many years ago, an old man, his name was Josiah, told me, "Celia, if you live long enough, you'll become a tree. No one will touch you. They'll walk by, nod, but they won't touch." I didn't understand it then, but now I do. No one looks for a wife, a friend, or strength in me anymore. They see only a shadow that knows too much, and that gives a kind of freedom. Invisible but real. I can stay silent, and in that silence, there's more truth than in their words. I see how the young ones fight, cry, struggle. I was like that, and now I just stand, like a tree. And trees whisper too, especially at night. Nights were always frightening, not because of the dark. Darkness was our friend. It hid tears, scars, desires. The real horror was in the sounds. The stomp of boots on wood, a woman's scream, a child's cry, then silence. You didn't know who had been taken, but you knew tomorrow everything would be the same, except someone's eyes would go empty. We never spoke of it. We just held each other with our eyes. And in those eyes was everything: pain, love, memory, shame. I wasn't afraid of death. I was afraid of forgetting. If you forget everything, who are you then? If you don't remember your mother, the song, Tommy's hand, Lily's voice, the shadow on the floor, you become nobody. And I didn't want to be nobody. Even if only inside, I wanted to be myself. So I repeated, in a whisper, everything I remembered, like a spell, like a mantra, like salvation. One day a preacher came to us, a white man, young, with eyes the color of water. He spoke of God, of forgiveness, of meekness. We listened because we had no choice. And then he said, "You must submit. This is your cross." I looked at him and thought, what cross does he bear? His hands were clean, his boots new, and his voice was one no one dared to question. After the service, I walked up to him. I don't know why. I just did. And I said, "If your mother lived in chains, would you call it meekness too?" He didn't answer, just turned away. But I felt something stir inside me. Something real. I had dared to ask the question. And even if the answer never came, the very act was a victory. We had an old man, blind. His name was Reeve. He said he could hear the earth. At night, he would lie on his stomach and press his ear to the soil. "It whispers," he said, "tells who will leave and who will stay." Many thought he was mad, but I believed him, because once he came to me, laid a hand on my shoulder and said, "You will not die in slavery. I don't know when, but you will see freedom." I laughed then, bitterly. He only nodded. "You'll remember me later." I remember everything. One night a young man came to me, a slave, very young, around 16. His eyes were light, the kind we never had. He said his mother was black, his father white, and he wanted to escape. "You're old," he said. "You've got nothing to lose. Tell me, where's the river?" I didn't get angry. I saw the kind of desperation in him that can't be hidden. I showed him, not because I believed he would make it, but because if even one of us makes it, then we haven't lived in vain. A week later, we heard someone had escaped. They searched. The dogs barked. The whites yelled, beat us one by one, hoping someone would talk. But I stayed silent. And then, many days later, I found a feather by the cabin door. Small, white like snow. I don't know if he left it, but I took it as a sign. He was alive. I knew it. And that night, for the first time in a long while, I fell asleep with a smile. You can live beside someone for 10 years, share bread with them, sit silently together in the night, and still not know who they truly are. And sometimes just one look, one gesture, is enough to understand. This is not a slave. This is a wolf in a cage who still remembers the forest. That was Rosa. I met her when I was already well past 40. She had just arrived, fresh, unbroken, with a face that held too much strength for this world. They sold her here, from another state, as if she were unwanted. No one knew she could read. No one knew her father had been a free man. And no one knew that under her dress, sewn into the hem, was a small piece of paper with an address where her brother was waiting for her. I found out by accident. I heard her softly reading something to herself at night. None of us could read. I came closer, and she hid it all in an instant. Then, a few weeks later, she came to me herself. She said, "If they catch me, I will say nothing. But if I make it, you'll know that freedom is real. I'll leave a sign." I didn't believe her. We all dreamed. Many had run. Almost none returned. And if they did, they no longer walked straight. But Rosa was different. She didn't ask, didn't fear, didn't try to adapt. She just waited for the right moment. And that moment came. One night the girl disappeared. Rosa. She simply vanished. Without noise, without a trace. Only in her corner, a folded piece of cloth, and beneath it, a bird feather. White. I took it, and gave it to no one. 3 days later, hell broke loose. They beat all of us, questioned us one by one, searched for accomplices. I said nothing, though my heart pounded like it wanted to escape my chest. Then something strange happened. That evening, while I was scrubbing the floors in the master's house, the young master entered the room. The son of the owner. His name was William. He was unlike the others. Too quiet, too thoughtful. I had always sensed something different in him. He looked at me and suddenly said, "She made it." I froze. He stepped closer and said quietly, "Rosa, she made it to her brother. I found a letter. It was addressed to me." He left without explaining anything. And I stood there, and I knew something in this house was breaking. I never saw William again. A month later, he left. They said he went to the northern lands. Someone whispered that he sold part of the land and gave up his inheritance. But I knew he helped her. He helped Rosa escape. And maybe he escaped too, in his own way. And now, listen to the strangest story of all. About the ghost boy. His name was Joseph. No one knew for sure where he came from. He simply appeared. At first, everyone thought he was the son of one of the maids. Small, quiet, a white shirt down to his knees, huge black eyes. He never spoke, only watched, and suddenly he vanished, just disappeared. No one saw him again, but one day, I swear before God, I heard someone whisper my name. "Celia." I turned around, no one, and at the door, just like before, a white feather. I took it, placed it next to the one Rosa had left. And the next morning, in the barn, someone found writing on a board. Charcoal. One word. Freedom. The old ones said it was the spirit of those who had escaped and died. That he comes back for us. I don't know. But since then, every time someone ran, someone would hear their name in the night. And in the morning, they would find a feather. I collected them, secretly. I kept them in a cloth bundle under my mattress. There were 8. 8 names. 8 fates. 8 wings. Sometimes I would press the bundle to my chest and whisper, "I'm still here, but I'll fly too." One night, fire burst into the cabin where I slept. Real fire, alive, roaring and burning. We didn't know how the blaze had started. Some said one of the boys had knocked over a lantern. Others whispered it was sabotage, deliberate, meant to start a revolt. No one knew the truth. Or maybe no one wanted to. The fire spread quickly. I barely had time to pull the blind Reeve out by the hand. You remember him? He was shouting that he could hear the earth singing, that it was waking up. We stumbled out, coughing, tripping. And for the first time in many years, I smelled something real, burning wood, the scent of release. Because in that moment, I knew everything was changing. It wasn't just a fire. It was a sign. Something had broken in this land. After the fire came fear and silence. They started counting us every morning. Everyone was a suspect. Some disappeared. Forever. Some got sick from the smoke and never got up again. But I remained. And Reeve remained. He said, that was the flame of cleansing. But I thought it was a warning that we are not eternal shadows. That fire can live in us too. A week later, guests came to the house. Rich, loud, arrogant. One of them was from the north. His name was Mr. Hale. He had a strange gaze, as if he was constantly calculating something. Slaves, people, money. He told the mistress, these slaves are no good. They die too soon. You need to buy fresh, young ones. I heard this while standing by the wall. And then I understood. To them we were just numbers. Like sacks of grain. The fresher, the better. And the old ones, into the fire. Like firewood. That very night I did something I had never done before. I snuck into the master's study. I don't know what came over me. There was fear, yes. But something stronger than fear. Curiosity, anger, the need to see what was hidden. I knew where he kept the key. I had seen him lock the drawer. When everyone was asleep, I went there barefoot, as if my feet were leading me on their own. In the drawer, I found letters. From Rosa, from William, and something else. A map. On it, a path. From our place to the north. With marks, crosses, strange symbols. And next to it, a name. My name. I didn't understand. Why? Who made it? Rosa? William? Or someone else? But at that moment, for the first time, I thought maybe someone had been preparing the way all along. For us. For people like me. Quietly, silently, through fire and whispers. I returned to the cabin with the map. I hid it under the floorboard, next to the bundle of feathers. Sometimes at night, I would take it out, look at it, and I felt something awakening deep inside me, something I was afraid to even name, a dream. But dreams are dangerous. In the morning, the overseer entered the cabin, grim, with a whip. He was looking for something. Someone had told. Someone had seen me walking around at night. He turned everything upside down, but found nothing, because I had hidden the map in a clay jar where we stored water. He smashed boards, scattered the bundles, dumped out the feathers. He found 7. 1 feather was missing. The 7th. I hadn't noticed. And he picked it up, said, "So you remember," and left. No blow, no shout, just left. And I stood there, unable to breathe. Who was he? What did he know? Why didn't he punish me? I don't know. But in that moment, I understood. Even among those who hold the whip, there are some who remember. Someone who, maybe long ago, also heard his mother sing a song that must never be forgotten. I've held this map in my hands for many years. The paper has yellowed, its edges worn by time, but the lines remain the same. Crosses, arrows, symbols. I never followed it. Not because I didn't want to. I was waiting too long. Every day I told myself, just a little longer, just one more day. And then I suddenly understood. My legs could no longer run. My body had grown heavy, like tree roots. But my soul still sang. Sometimes the young ones come to me. They sit nearby. They ask what I remember. I smile. Not everything can be told in words. Some things live only in whispers, in glances, in the silence between phrases. But I tell them anyway. About Rosa, about Tommy, about Lily, about the ghost boy, about the fire, about the map, and always about the feathers. You ask why I kept them. Because each one held a will to live, to be free. And if someone one day finds my bundle, they'll see, here were those who did not break, who ran, who stayed silent but dreamed. Not long ago, a girl came up to me, just a child, light skin, eyes like the evening sky. I didn't know who she belonged to. Maybe born of a mixed marriage, maybe brought by new owners. She looked at me for a long time, then suddenly asked, "Have you ever flown?" I smirked. "No." "Have you?" She nodded, said, "Every night in my dreams. I fly over the river. There are feathers. So many. And one woman, she sings." I held my breath, then asked, "Is she black?" "No, she's golden." I don't know what it means. Maybe just a child's imagination. Or maybe I've already become a bird. And my songs, my tears, my words have scattered like wings. And someone heard them. Tonight I felt myself being called. Not by a voice, not by a sound, but by vibration. The ground beneath me seemed to breathe. Like that night when Reeves said he could hear it. I lay with my eyes closed and saw a forest, dark, deep, branches bent low over a path, and light, and someone waiting for me at the end of it. I'm not afraid. If you ever hear a whisper in the dark, don't be afraid. It's me. It's us. All of us who remain between the lines, between generations, between silence and scream. Just remember, because as long as we are remembered, we are alive. And if you find a feather, take it. It's yours now. You are the continuation. You are the witness. You are the wing that has yet to rise.